A few years ago, I decided to go down this little rabbit hole of life lesson channels and videos. Mostly because I was just curious about the concept and seeing how people tackled different issues. I'm talking, of course, about channels like Darman, Samir Bhavanani, Vid Chronicles, that tend to try to be a little bit more serious than parody or ironic channels like Tomorrow's Teachings that get a little bit insane with their plots. Which I guess is true for the modern Darman and Samir Bhavanani, but my point still stands. A lot of their videos cover real-world issues like discrimination, honesty, being a good person in general. There's one Darman video that I saw in the past that talked about how doing something good will always come back to you. I don't think that's a good life lesson at all. I say that because you shouldn't go do good and just expect to have a net positive gain after you do something good for someone. But it can benefit you mentally. You can feel this sense of accomplishment that you helped someone, and that can be good, not just for the other person, but also for you. Compassion is an important thing to share with an individual or a group of people. That's something that I think is going to be paramount to learn how to share and convey in this year, 2026. I mean, 2026 is already insane as it is. I mean, we're only in day 10 and, good lord. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, this is going to be a crazy year. God. But I digress. Now, but despite what I'm going to say in this video, my point still stands, and I will die on this hill. Doing good works will not always lead to a physical net positive for you, and you shouldn't expect that either. Now, I say that because I'm about to tell you a story about how I did something good and it came back to me. I know. Just let me be a hypocrite for a moment, because what happened, and this was last year, this was probably one of the coolest moments of 2025, if not my life, outside of very few select moments in my life. I was going to go to the Wings and Wheels Utah event in Spanish Fork, Utah. Now that's a couple minutes drive south of Provo. There's a little airport there that has normally small planes, but for a weekend in September, there are a bunch of larger planes. You have transports, bombers, other warbirds from World War II and the early Cold War that come together and fly for an air show, and sometimes they give people rides as well. There was an air museum called the Erickson Aircraft Collection, and they were bringing in a B-17 called Ye Old Pub. I got a picture of it. Here it is. It's not the actual Ye Old Pub that flew in World War II, but it is a B-17 that's painted to look like Ye Old Pub. So they were coming in, and they were planning on giving people rides, and they were short on manpower. They ended up asking around the airport, seeing if there would be any people willing to volunteer and help them out for the weekend while they were there. And I was one of the people that actually responded to their call for help. It was a really cool experience working with these guys, and I guess I was one of the only people to step in upon hearing their request. That is, one of the only people outside of the airport to respond to their request for help. Because they kept singing my praises and were just really thankful for me being there. And the work they gave me was pretty simple. I did a couple of things. On Saturday, which was the day of the show, and when the most people would be there, I gave people walkthrough tours. That is, I stood right outside of the side door on the fuselage, waiting to let people inside and take a look at the bomber. Look up close at the different components on the inside, in the bomb bay, the gunner seats in the fuselage, the navigator room, and even the cockpit. And for the people that were waiting outside, I would talk to them about the history of the specific B-17. I worked for them for like an hour or two, and of course they let me take a break and take photographs of the other cool aircraft that were flying. For example, there was a de Havilland Vampire that came down from this private owner in St. George. I think he lives in St. George. Along with a candy drop. I haven't edited the candy drop photos yet, but if I have a video, I'll definitely put it on the screen right here. The air show was super cool, but it got a little bit hectic at the end of the day. I say this because a couple of planes were supposed to give people rides at the end of the day, at the end of the air show. And that does include the B-17. The B-17 was the first plane to go. They were scheduled to fly 3 times on Saturday, each flight lasting 20 minutes, to give people that paid for rides the rides. Now, as soon as they left for their first flight, which was supposed to last 20 minutes, it immediately turned into a 40-minute flight because all of a sudden there was a huge pickup in wind speed and a thunderstorm cell that formed directly in front of their flight path. They ended up having to do a couple of go-arounds at the airport, waiting for the winds to at least calm down just a little bit. But eventually they were able to get their wheels down and everyone was able to get off safely. Now, the B-17 is a relatively big aircraft, but it's not all that heavy, and it can still get kicked around in the wind. So I imagine it wasn't too comfortable for the passengers in the plane. But at least they were able to get off safely. I did feel kind of bad because while I felt terrible for the crew for having to put up with the weather, I did manage to get a lot of good shots of the bomber flying. The weather got so bad that the remaining 2 Saturday flights had to be postponed to Sunday morning, which was really hectic because they had to squeeze not 2, but 4 flights into the span of 2 hours. And if that wasn't bad enough, the bomber crew, after the paid rides were finished, would immediately have to start refueling the bomber and make their way back to Oregon before yet another storm cell forming over their home airfield took place. So they had to do a lot in a time crunch, but I did my best to try to help. The task I was specifically assigned was to make phone calls to the people that paid and were supposed to ride on Saturday to let them know that their ride was ready that Sunday morning. I was asked to help sign waivers and confirm that the riders had already paid. And if you're curious, each seat is $550. And that's pretty on par with a lot of the prices of bomber rides that you can get around the country. And it's a lot lower compared to riding a World War II fighter because it's a much more economical option because you can carry more people. So, lower prices for riding a bomber. We were able to go through the flights flawlessly. During one of the flights, my dad called me and was asking me how things were going. I told him what was up and what was happening, and he basically demanded that I asked them, because I was helping them out, to get me a free flight on the bomber. Which, considering everything that was happening and the things that I told you, I was not planning on doing. And I was just simply not going to tell him what happened. Maybe I would lie or something. But after I ended the phone conversation, I was talking to the crew on the ground, and I was just like, get a load of this guy, you hear what my dad said? And we kind of had a laugh at that. But I always iterated that, I don't care what he says. Working with you guys and getting up close views of the bomber is a great enough experience for me. This is amazing as it is. So the first 3 flights went on without a hitch. There was maybe 1 or 2 hiccups there, but we were able to get everyone on board. All of the people that were supposed to show up on Saturday came that morning on Sunday. One of the crew members for the 4th flight, we double-checked and triple-checked everything, showed him the list of names, showed everybody paid for their seats, and he looks me dead in the eye and he says, "Alright, sounds good. Everything looks good. You did great. Now sign your own waiver, join them in the circle, and give them your consent that you're willing to fly in the bomber." And I was just like, what the hell did you just say to me? Don't toy with my feelings now. And he was just like, "No, you get a free ride. This is just our thank you, because you stepped in to help when we needed it. We have 1 spare seat, and we'll happily give it to you." So I took them up on that offer. I mean, who wouldn't? Look at this video. I can't even believe that I took this either. I was sitting in the side gunner area, and I could get a pretty clear side view of what was going on. I could see the left wing. There's the Army Air Corps roundel on the wing. I was sitting right next to the tail wheel, so I was able to watch that come up as well. And it just dawned on me how this is what a not airtight aircraft looks like. Imagine how many people hear about the history of these kinds of airplanes and just don't experience it themselves. It was an incredibly humbling experience, and the entire time I was just speechless. I wasn't able to take my camera bag with me, which there wouldn't have been enough space to do so, but I was able to take my little DSLR and a couple of lenses to get different views, and yeah, these are the photos. We flew over Santa Keen and Goshen, which is a series of wetlands at the southernmost part of Utah Lake. And it was especially cool to get a bird's eye view of these wetlands because I was doing some drone work in the area like 1 or 2 weeks prior. And it was incredibly amazing to get a first-hand view of this area that I studied. And we also flew a little bit close to a place called Jerusalem. No, not Jerusalem, Israel, but a section of land that the Mormon church had bought out to film their Jesus show called The Chosen. So we flew relatively close to there, although I don't think there was any filming happening there, but they would have the airspace closed off if they were, because you wouldn't want to break the space-time continuum by having a World War II bomber flying behind Peter or something. It was an incredibly amazing experience, and it's not something that I'm gonna forget at any point of my life. After I got on the ground, I got lots of my friends and fellow airplane spotters messaging me on social media, and they were just like, "I gotta start volunteering now." Which to all of their messages, I was just responding with curb your expectations a little bit. Because just because it happened to me doesn't mean it'll happen to you. Which is insane for me to say, because I still can't even believe what happened. And the irony of me to say, don't expect something physical to happen to you. And here I am sharing this. But I mostly just wanted to talk about this to Not only say that, but to share at least one good thing that happened last year, which I don't know if it's wishful thinking, but I at least want to hold on to this. If at least one good thing happened in 2025, which there have been a few good things that happened in my life in 2025, then there's at least got to be a couple of things that will happen that are good this year. I'm at least going to try to make it happen in other people's lives too, because what else can I do? Thank you for listening, and I'll see you again very soon.